territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. You can see the rest of the land acknowledgement that has been approved by the university, but I always like to personalize it just a little bit. And given the recent news of the Pope being in Canada and apologizing for some of the atrocities that happened in the residential schools, I encourage everyone to take a moment to reflect when they can upon what our Indigenous peoples went through over the last few hundred years and what we can do to help rectify that. September 30th is the Truth and Reconciliation Day. There are no classes that day, so that would be as good a time as any to at least take a few moments to think about what has transpired and how we can move forward from this. There are the three people presenting today. I really should get a new headshot because I don't look much like that anymore. My hair is now completely white. I wish I still looked like that, but unfortunately I don't. Okay, so I believe this is where, did you want to do this part, Allison, or you want me to go through these as well?
You could, or I can.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to go through approach to writing your proposal. The part I'm going to focus on, of course, is telling your story and positioning yourself for these awards, the various types of awards. Okay, so you have to consider your audience. Some of these applications will be going to people who are experts in your field, but often they may be expert adjacent or sometimes even completely naive readers. So do your best to find out what the adjudication committee is comprised of, and be sure to write this in a general way whenever possible. Some awards, I believe the Vanier included, do require a sort of layman's summary of your research, but try to avoid overly technical aspects when you can. Okay, so there are the two types of writing, scholarship and scholarly. If you're applying for scholarships, the aim, of course, is, show me the money. You are trying to gain funding to support yourself while you're a student. So the style is persuasive, clear, and it is very much like a sales pitch. You are selling yourself. And it really does come down to very much like a sales situation. You need to convince the person reading this that you are the most deserving person for this scholarship or this award. And because of that, you want to avoid a lot of jargon, and you want to emphasize the significance and impact of your work. Someone told me once years ago, jokingly, this will not apply to everyone, if you want to get funding, study something that kills people, because that is very dramatic. But you'd be surprised if you put a little bit of thought into it, how dramatic you can make things that might seem relatively mundane. In the before times, when we do this in person, we would sometimes get together in small groups, and a few students challenged me, says, well, I study whatever, like, how can I make that exciting? And we would brainstorm to try and come up with ways to come up with an angle to make that seem exciting and interesting. And you'd be surprised that, how well you can do that if you put some thought into it. Most of you are more used to scholarly writing, where it's you are aiming this for someone within your field of study to be read by experts. So it's going to be a lot more detailed. It's going to have more jargon, a lot more acronyms, etc. And it follows, the customary conventions, often dictated by, submission rules for various journals, that sort of thing. So be sure to keep in mind that there are these two types of writing, and don't fall into the trap of using too much scholarly writing in your scholarship application. Okay, outcomes versus outputs. Okay, So in terms of outcomes, most of us are in research because we want to do something that's going to, move knowledge forward and quite often improve society. So you want to make it clear that your research will have outcomes that could have direct effects or indirect effects on just improving the world in general. Often often the effects are more indirect. Some things like in medical research, it'd be much more direct. But often it's can be more secondary. A few years ago, someone said that they were studying reading skills in young children. And I said, well, then reading skills in young children, education is important. If people don't learn how to read properly and read well, then that's going to affect their education. So if young children, if their reading skills are not as good, that could affect the trajectory of their entire life. And maybe one of those kids that didn't learn to read as well could have been something much better in the long run, but because they didn't gain those skills early, they missed out on that. So don't always think about the direct first level effects of your research, but sometimes try and think beyond that, how it may affect things years out. So the outputs are the measures of your scholarly success, and that's sharing your findings, number of publications, number of citations, number of conference presentations, that sort of thing. So again, be sure to keep these two concepts clear when you're writing this about your output, which demonstrates your productivity and how good a researcher you are, but also the outcomes of your research and how that may be affecting people or the world or industry or medicine, immediately or perhaps years in the future. So in terms of the research criteria, many of these awards break down into these three groups: research potential, leadership, and academic excellence. And you're going to have to write about each of these three things. The research potential will be a lot to do with your output. Leadership will be, in terms of your experience, what you've gained, what you know now, how you plan on, using that in the future. And academic excellence, of course, will largely be based on transcripts, but also publications, presentations, all those sorts of issues. But remember that I believe many of these now categorize these into these three basic areas that you have to address and or your reviewers have to address. So try and create, the list of points that each of these things, how they would pertain to you, and make sure that all of the things that you list get mentioned in your application throughout. Okay, so I often frame this in terms of your story. I teach second year stats class, and I always tell people whenever I went to see my advisor, very often I'd walk in and he said, okay, I'd say, I got some results. Okay, what's your story? Because people think in terms of stories. That's just how humans interact. We're always telling stories, whether we realize it or not. A journal article is a story of sorts, and stories have various parts, and you have to tell your story. So if you think about a standard sort of story has a lot of things. We have these several parts. We have an intro. So if you're reading a book, the intro sets out the characters, something about the basic situation people are in. It has to lay some groundwork. So that's like your intro. You have the plot. So things start to develop, things start to interact. People meet, people move, things happen. There are surprise outcomes. A few plot twists, etc. And then, in my mind, a good story has an ending. I know that there are some movies that are left relatively ambiguous at the end, but I'm not a fan of those. I like knowing what happens at the end. So a good story has all of these parts, and humans like stories. Like that's how we communicate. We like to hear stories about other people. So think of your application as a story and think of it as a whole, not just some of its parts. So you have to make sure that when you're talking about yourself near the beginning in the intro, keep in mind that you know the ending already. And so introduce things that are going to be important as the plot develops. If you go back and watch a movie for a second time, you'll think, oh, I didn't notice that in the first 10 minutes that this person took medication. So they have some sort of illness, and that becomes important later. So make sure that you think of your application as one big unit, even though it's comprised of several separate parts, and think about how that is going to fit into your story. So you want to help the reader. I joke that a really good application does most of the work for the reader. People who are adjudicating these things, they see a lot of them. And so the harder you make it for them to realize what a great student you are, the less likely you are to get funded. So set the stage. Some require cover letters, some might have a cover letters optional, but all of them have a statement of interest or a research plan. So you can sort of work a little bit of the cover letter into your statement of interest and research plan if you think that through and are a little bit creative. But in the first part of your application, you're setting this up. So help to guide your reader. Cue them about things that might come up later. A research project you were involved in, or something that one of your reviewers might say, or some skill that you may have. But as I mentioned, and I'm going to mention a few more times in the next few minutes, always keep your overall story in mind and how each part fits into your story. You want your application to be lean, not overly redundant, but just redundant enough so that the main parts will be mentioned early, reinforced later, and then summed up near the end. A person I follow on the web who posts little videos said that a good way to make sure somebody gets the message is tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it is useful advice. Okay. Most of us, maybe all of us, have little hidden gems. A project you were involved in, an extra course, a part-time job that gave you experience that might be applicable, anything that can add to your application. But don't expect the reader to find them all on their own. Just because you listed on page 3 of your CV that you were involved in some visiting scholars project, when they visited Brock, or that you accompanied your supervisor to be involved in something. They won't necessarily notice that unless you point it out and cue them to make sure they notice it. So make sure that you don't let those hidden gems remain hidden, and consider where that would fit in. It's okay to have it in your CV, but mention it in your statement of interest, or have one of your reviewers talk about it to make sure that that gets noticed. Quite often, let's say hidden gems will remain hidden unless you point them out. So as I mentioned, make sure that you tell them where they are. Do the work for your reader. Make it easy for them to notice, because they're not going to be searching, thinking about your application, looking for these on their own, spending a lot of effort trying to figure out what you may have done. Try to get ahead of concerns. Many people will have, a less than perfect application. I certainly did when I was applying for these. Very, very short history. I did a degree in math before I circled back and did a second degree in psychology. My math degree was completed, and that's a generous description of it. I did not do well. I was not a good student then, but I had to submit those those transcripts. So they saw all those marks, including several failures. But what you can do is take any negatives and don't think that the reviewers aren't going to notice them, but take them and turn them around. So I would say, you can see that in my math degree, my overall average was 60 and I failed several courses. However, that was during these years. Since then I've done this, and since then I've changed. I'm now completely focused on it. Look at my more recent results, where my average is now, substantially higher, etc. So if there's a negative, if there's a gap in your research, a few bad marks, a bad term, you're certainly under no obligation to disclose any, incredibly personal things. But even if you were to say something like, you may notice that in my third year of my undergraduate degree, there was a substantial dip in my marks, but there was, some personal issues going on at that point in time, but they've been completely resolved. I'm now refocused on my studies. Look at my fourth year grades and my first year master grades. So, you can work around and not try to hide those, but you can actually turn a negative into a positive if you can explain it briefly, and especially if you can mention something that you may have learned or gained from that. And if possible, you can even ask a reference if they're familiar with the situation to reinforce that. But don't be afraid of a negative in your application. They don't have to be, a deal breaker. You can often turn a negative into a positive by simply explaining it and then saying what you've done to get past that situation and move forward, and ask them to, and then point out some of the positive things since then and get them refocused on the good parts again. So items, of course, this will vary slightly across different types of applications. Confirm if a cover letter is allowed or even required. Double, triple, quadruple check the list of requirements. I've seen more than a few come in that are simply missing something. And it's amazing that, you can, quite often go through the list once, or then just forget to upload something or check something. This is one time in your life where you really should be compulsive. If they don't supply you with a list of items you have to include, create one of your own. Like I say, double, triple, quadruple check it. Some will have an option where you can print a PDF of your application for your own records afterwards. Print that and actually read it. Make sure it's all there. Make sure something didn't get cut off. Sometimes you have to put parts of your application in little text boxes, and it looks fine on the screen, but when it converts it to PDF, you've lost the last sentence or something. Work with your letter writers, your references. As I say, gently remind them of deadlines and confirm submission. Whenever somebody asks me for a letter, that's always the first thing I say is, I'm putting the ball in your court. I do my best to outsource as much of my frontal lobe activity as possible these days. So just keep bugging me until it's in. Most people don't remind. Friendly reminders, and just make sure. I've also seen applications come in where there's one letter short. Someone just forgot or missed a deadline or something, and we hate to see that. Okay, so your statement or your research plan. This should continue with your story. If you've been allowed a cover letter, or if not, it will hopefully all work together. You want to use this to sort of tie together various parts. Show how your experience has prepared you for this. Provide clear examples. Refer to your CV. Refer to your letters. Keep thinking about this whole idea of your story and how all this fits together. And remember that if you don't tell your story, then the reader will come up with a story in their own mind, because we're humans. It's psychology. We create stories. So you want to make sure that they're reading the story that you want them to read. Okay, so just make sure that all of this ties together, and keep reinforcing the good parts. A hook can be incredibly useful. And it can get somebody engaged in your application right away. As I say, the people are going to be reading a lot of these. And so if you can catch people's attention and make them interested in reading your application right off the top, then that can be a very effective strategy for putting them in a positive frame of mind and making them excited about reading the rest of your application. So a good hook will catch the reader's attention. Think about it, pick it carefully, make sure it's relevant, not too dramatic or over the top, or not really applicable to what you're studying. But if you can relate it to global events or news or history, sometimes an anecdote or quotation can catch people's attention. Although this is my personal preference, but one of my least favorite things is when an application starts with Webster's Dictionary defines whatever as. I know that was sort of novel and useful 20 years ago, but you could make it work. I'm not saying don't do it absolutely, but just be careful with things like that, because myself and I know a few other people that I've spoken to at adjudication meetings have said that that kind of put them off immediately. So here is I do research in sleep deprivation, and so this is actually one of my first drafts from something I applied for probably 25 years ago now or something. But I'm interested in the effects of sleep deprivation on attention, arousal, and performance monitoring. These factors can affect workplace safety and put people at risk, but are not clearly understood. Examining relationships among these factors may help us develop more successful. I'm already falling asleep, and this is my area of research. I like this stuff. So I was told that this was starting off a little bit too dull. And so I reworked it. And here is the first sentence from my reworked application. Large-scale disasters such as Exxon Valdez, Chernobyl nuclear meltdown, and explosion of the Space Shuttle Challenger have all been associated with errors made by sleep-deprived individuals. Innumerable automobile accidents and medical mistakes, errors, and lapses in attention become exponentially more common after just 12 hours of wakefulness. These errors can have catastrophic consequences. Understanding relationships among sleepiness, errors, and lapses will reduce the likelihood of events such as these occurring in the future and save lives. So this application was successful for me. I think it was for an NSERC a long time ago. But it's saying the same thing. This is just much more specific. The Exxon Valdez and Chernobyl, maybe date this a little bit. If I were to do this today, I'd probably find more recent examples of sleep deprivation, like I think there was a chemical leak in Bhopal, India, that killed thousands of people that was traced back to sleep deprivation. So anything you can do to get the person's attention right off the bat and make them want to read more of your application will serve you well in the long run. Be sure to organize your CV in terms of a way that will get noticed. Think about your story. Think about what you want to focus on. Maybe move the important things further up in your CV so they happen sooner. And don't be afraid to reorder your CV based on the scholarship you're applying for. I know a lot of the government ones now are using the standardized CV, so you don't have as much freedom in that. But whatever degrees of freedom you have in terms of organizing your CV to make sure that what you need to be noticed is noticed, and maybe even delete things that are of no consequence or not really applicable, will help you stay within your page limits and make your CV, well, as short as possible without being too short, so that you can focus more on what is important. And as it mentions there, that if you're having trouble with your CV, you can contact career@brocku.ca and they will help you out with that. Your references, another really important part. Talk to your reference letter writers. Maybe not all will want to do this, but whenever anybody asks me for a letter, I actually kind of insist on it. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, I tell people, like, I won't lie, I won't make stuff up. I will only promise to talk about things in my own way, but if you want me to address something, be sure to mention that. But think about each letter in the context of your story. So when you speak to your supervisor, say, well, I would like you to focus on my thesis and this project and whatever, if possible, and ask them if they have any other ideas, like what else they might be talking about. Some people like myself are quite open. I will give my letter of reference to people so they actually see it. Others might not want to. But don't be afraid to talk to your letter writer and ask them if they feel comfortable talking about this aspect and this aspect because they're mentioned other places. So to make sure that they're talking about the things that you assumed they were going to talk about. And try to pick letter writers that will address different aspects. You don't want all of your letters, whether it's 2 letters or 3 letters, you don't want them all saying the exact same thing. So, your supervisor will undoubtedly be one letter, and they're going to talk about your thesis, coursework, etc. But maybe your second letter writer is someone you did a different project with, or someone you took a course with, or someone you were involved with in some other way. So try and gently guide your letter writers into covering different aspects to make sure all of that gets covered and you remain in control of the overall story. And so approximately what they're going to talk about, and then you can also mention that in your cover letter and or research plan. Don't be afraid to ask your letter writers to mention specific things, and they can refer to that as well. As you will see in their CV, they have already presented at 4 conferences and have the first authored publication, that sort of thing. So just to sum up, be sure to tell your story. Do as much of the work for the readers as you can. Make it easy for them to see all the good stuff. Think your application as a package. Make sure the sections are all complementary, fitting together in that package, telling your story. Try to avoid too much redundancy. Only reminders about critical points. I say you don't want both of your letter writers, writing half a page about the same project or something. And work with your references. This has been a strategy that I've been told has been fairly successful in the past with other students that I've spoken to. And having adjudicated some of these awards myself, I know that when I get a package that's just really easy to read, beginning to end, it just makes it so much nicer. It puts me in a positive frame of mind. I can see what this person's done, why they deserve the award, how all these things fit together, what they've done, what they're doing, and what they want to do in the future, and how that's going to impact society, etc. All those things really do help. So, positioning yourself for the award. Jennifer Roters is a PhD student here at Brock. At the risk of sounding, I don't know, a bit mushy or whatever, she's one of my favorite people. She's TA'd for me. We've worked together. I'm on her committee. We've had a lot of fun. We share a dark sense of humor, so that always helps. But anyway, I am going to stop sharing my screen now, and while Jennifer tells her story and give the power back to Allison. But Jennifer's here to tell you a little bit about her experience in applying for a Vanier and getting one.
Yes, I will. So, hello, Jennifer Roters here. I am in the Department of Psychology, and what I specifically study is childhood adversity as it relates to the responses that individuals can have to these adverse situations. So, one way people can have an adverse response is through attachment, impaired attachment. Another way is through personality. Specifically, the personality outcomes I'm interested in are borderline personality disorder and psychopathy. I've also extended my work towards mindfulness and how that fits into this puzzle. But first, I will tell you my story. So, as always, you have to start somewhere. And my story starts, I guess, many years ago. I've always been someone that people have opened up to, that want to share their story with me, um, that I've always wanted to help people with any kind of difficulties. So that's kind of where my story began and where I started to diversify towards psychology. That's where my Vanier application actually began. So that was my leadership statement, I guess, that kind of knitted everything together. Now, when you are actually posturing towards these awards, I know a lot of students tend to be more introverted. We tend to spend a lot of time studying and writing and things like that. But what's of the utmost importance for the Vanier is extracurriculars. So, volunteer work, any kind of committees that you happen to be part of, those are very important. So you'll always want to be organized and start to posture towards doing things like that. For me, I took a break between my first master's and my second master's. My first master's being in clinical counseling psychology, my second being more research based, to work. So I worked in a forensic unit in Northern Ontario, working with males specifically. I started working with an individual who did more research, Dr. Liam Marshall, and we are still in contact today. We do a lot of writing and research and whatnot together, and he is kind of where my research career began. I started doing work with court mandated sex offenders while I was in my first master's, and he is an expert in the sex offender field. A lot of the treatment that is offered to forensic individuals, it is more negative, whereas we found that more positive interventions yielded better outcomes. So I immediately started working with him and volunteered on any project that I possibly could. He started working with trauma focused care as well as attachment, which is a big piece of my work today. I, however, was brought onto a unit to start doing work on borderline personality disorder. While I was in my first master's, this kind of became a focus because when learning about borderline personality disorder, the suffering that these individuals feel was quite heartbreaking to myself. And I always wanted to help and do something about it. And I found that these individuals didn't necessarily get the most empathy that they could. However, since they're quite unwell at times, they tend to burn out caregivers. So, kind of trying to figure out that balance between there led me to the evidence based therapy of dialectical behavioral therapy. One intervention within there that worked quite well for the offenders on our unit, as well as individuals with borderline, was mindfulness. So, you see, right now, I'm starting to knit everything together. I'm not much of a knitter. Learned recently to crochet. Did a hat. It was pretty decent. Um, that being said, so I started to knit everything together. So my research with Liam led me to apply to get my PhD. I started again with a master's because my first master's was more applied, which came into use when I started my PhD, because intervention is a big piece of my work now. When I first came to Brock University, I immediately started in on the social committee and the mentorship program in psychology. Because again, I wasn't your typical student. I had already worked in the field and I have a clinical background, so I wanted to support people during this difficult transition. Um, so that became my extracurriculars, and also, man, there's a fly just trying to attack me right now. It sucks. Um, I learned about the programs the Center of Pedagogical Innovation put on, and after coming from industry, you realize how important free trainings, happen to be. So CPI has been of the utmost importance to me. I did all of their trainings. I would highly suggest it for anybody that's applying to any kind of scholarship. As well as I found out about trainings in foundations and leadership. Now, a lot of undergrads do this, but I found it extremely helpful, and it's a great piece to accentuate, especially within the Vanier, with the leadership statement specifically, because it kind of helps guide you towards leadership styles that you can directly reference within your leadership statement. So those were the big pieces of what I had done in terms of background work. When I started thinking about the Vanier, um, the leadership statement really brought everything together. My body of research is coherent and related. It is quite complicated, which is kind of where Tim and my supervisor come into play. So I also teach in my spare time now statistics. So I do a lot of more complex multivariate statistics, and I do a lot of extracurricular training in that now, or receiving training. So that was a way that I could weave all of these variables together. And although in your statements, in your research, whatnot, it's not going to be a big piece of the puzzle, I did, within my research statement, draw a model of what I happen to be looking at. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and even though it only took up about 3 lines, it might have been particularly useful for the individuals that happen to be reading my proposal, because not everybody is stats minded. Some people run screaming from the room, as Tim and I have witnessed firsthand. So that was one piece that worked for me, and it helped weave all of my complicated background together. When you are, of course, telling your story, take the reader by the hand and don't make any assumptions that they can infer things from. So when I was telling my story, I started much the same way. I always have wanted to help people, and people have always felt comfortable with me. I started off doing a more applied work, and then I realized that I wanted to make a bigger impact than just one-on-one work. I noticed when I was working that research, as it filters down to the applied world, it's at a much slower pace because people that aren't embedded in research may not understand it as well. And to be fair, researchers aren't as good at disseminating that knowledge. So again, if you're taking a look at knowledge translation as free training at Brock, take that as well. You learn a lot of new skills there, which I've done quite heavily. And I did mention when Tim was talking about outcomes and ways to have outputs, knowledge translation kind of guides this. I even had a reference in there to Melanie Barwick, who's a big name in the knowledge translation field, saying, I wanted to disseminate this knowledge in a more applied way, maybe trialing novel mindfulness activities and things like that. My study 3 of my dissertation is trialing mindfulness in increasing attachment behaviors and decreasing personality. The way that I had to test this, even though it wasn't very long, was with Bayesian statistical methods, which are quite robust. That I had to pay for this training, but it was super useful. Again, I'm taking the reader by the hand. I'm not making any assumptions that, I needed these skills for this project specifically so it can have the biggest outcome. again, telling them what you want them to know, why you're an amazing student. Me, I told everybody that, I'm I'm eager. I am passionate about what I want to do. And nobody can stop me once I've got an idea in my head. They can guide me, of course, because, you have to be moldable to some degree, of course. And when I'm selecting my references, they have to know who you are and know your work. So my references come as no surprise. Tim was one of my references because he was my supervisor for statistics for several years. We even won an award, the Match of Minds. Those little awards also help. They also say funding begets funding. Now, I came into Brock with no funding experience. I didn't even know that I could apply the first year for a SHRC or an OGS. I'm like, what are those things? I had no clue. My second year of my master's, I did win a SHRC. So that could have been helpful. I've always heard funding begets funding. I think that's a question in the chat. So it helps. And I did play up the SHRC piece in my my section because they do want to see that you have some good research potential. Even though I didn't have particularly many publications or high impact publications, being able to say that I won the SHRC was quite helpful. My supervisor specifically, she worked with me also on teaching me structural equation modeling. So she could speak to that. She could speak to, I always joke about being compulsive, but I'm just very organized. I have schedules of when to follow up with people. If I don't hear back from them, it's like a weekly schedule. I joke with Tim that I'm stalking him. He's cool with it. And I mean, that's kind of what you have to do. My other references were who I did my extracurricular work with. Dr. Liam Marshall, we had been working together for years, and I was not being paid to do any of this work. It was just, passion for trying to help people that haven't been helped in the past. Also, CPI, Dr. Leanne Fisher. Is she a doctor now? She must be a doctor now. Or she's close. She's close. She's there. She's amazing, and I did a ton of work with her as well. So I had her write me a letter as well. When you start to get involved, people know you, and then they come and approach you, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to speak to students?" So I've been approached, and I usually say yes because, again, I'd love to help anybody win applications on Vanier. Even some of the winners that were last year, I read some of their stuff or provided some advice and whatnot. So paying it forward helps. As you start to read other people's applications, you start to learn about yourself as well, and how you can improve your work. So essentially, that's kind of my story. Just becoming involved anywhere that you can, connecting with people in terms of volunteer extracurriculars, ones that really fit into what the application's looking for. So leadership, both in an academic sense and in just a general training sense, is huge. Your passion to want to help or solve a problem, and really accentuating the implications of the problem. So, for example, childhood adversity not only has attachment and personality outcomes, it has physical health outcomes, such as, cardiac events, STIs, even, early mortality. And playing that up, unfortunately, it's morbid, but those are serious consequences that we're trying to stop. Even the consequences of having more disordered personality. Borderline and psychopathy tend to have big interpersonal deficits. Psychopathy violating the norms of others, and somewhat violating the norms of others with borderline, but also the suicidal and parasuicidal behaviors that you see there. And that just being a huge drain on the system, as well as the individuals around them, and just the suffering of that individual. So being able to kind of be creative, I suppose, in laying it out for your reader. And also having people look over your work, getting these applications done nice and early is great. So then you can look through and tease apart the pieces that need that extra finagling. So if I impart any wisdom on you, I hope it's this story and weaving things together.
That was great. Thank you so much. Another thing that I recommend with this, just to continue with what you said there of having other people read this is actually something your parents can read, assuming that most of your parents aren't PhDs in your field. But this, I wouldn't encourage you to ask them to read your 150-page thesis. But these abstracts or these applications are to be done at a level that anyone can read. Obviously, there will still be jargon, there will still be high-level terms, but you have to make sure that when you're writing it, as Tim said, when we do our internal adjudication, we have 3 people read each of these applications. 1 is a subject matter expert, and 2 are purposefully not, so that they're reading it and they're not having to fill in the blanks or ask those questions. So you have to make sure that everything is done in a very clear and concise manner. I'm just going to share my screen for one moment. Jennifer beautifully touched on all of these things that I have the official slides on, but make sure that you are working with your supervisor. That is what they are there for. So discussing the project with them, asking for related papers, asking to see previous students' proposals, and getting a sense of how you are going to position yourself with this. It obviously works different for every supervisory team. When I was doing my master's, when it was working well for us, I was meeting with my supervisor every 2 weeks. And it was really the best practice for us. And even if the day before the meeting, I had to email and cancel and say I didn't actually get anything done, having that in my system or in my calendar made me really want to focus on it. So just some potential challenges that you may feel as the first, if you are doing this for your first time, or even if it is subsequent time, is those word limits. You also want to make sure that you're aware of your audience. So this is going to depend on, again, which application you're applying for. So if you are applying for a SSHRC, it's going to look slightly different than if you're applying for an NSERC-based awards and if you're applying for CAHR-based awards. And you want to also make sure that you're describing the significance and feasibility of a project. So as Jennifer was alluding to, yes, the stuff that she's talking about is mindfulness, but there's the trickle-down effect of that. So make sure that your readers know about that trickle effect and understand why it is important for you to do this project, and also why you are the best person to do this project. To start with working on your proposal, you want to be concise. You want to balance the use of technical and lay terms. You want to limit the use of acronyms and short forms. Focus on your research question and discuss the experimental plans. And then again, taking that to the next level of what you would do with that information. Knowledge translation is definitely a big buzzword right now. The courses with Melanie Barwick are amazing. We also have courses through Brock University with Jane Moorish, and we'll be posting them as they come up. So they're excellent to add to your sort of repertoire of things. And even for courses, for example, like the CPI workshop, the ISW, the Instructional Skills Workshop, you do have to pay for that course, but then you get refunded for it. It's basically just the way of making sure that people show up for it. Or for even any of these other courses that you are paying out of pocket for, as a student, it's still going to be less expensive to take those courses than if you're not a student. So when you're talking about your experiences and skills, you want to talk about why the thing that you're highlighting on your CV, and this sort of ties into one of the questions over in the Slido. So it's not necessarily certain sections because it depends on you and your research story and the story that you're trying to say. So you are including those relevant details, but also including why it's important to you to shape the person that you are and the researcher that is worthy of receiving this Vanier. I'm going to have future workshops on this, but just as you're starting to be planning your project, really be thinking about how equality, diversity, and inclusion ties into your project, and make sure that you're mentioning in how that is going to be incorporated into your project. This isn't actually related to funding, but is just something that I am incredibly passionate about, is make sure that you use a reference manager. I know lots of people who are still doing their references manually. And if you use a reference manager, it will actually check for your references. It will correct them for you, and it will allow you to alternate between. So say that you're writing your paper in APA, and then all of a sudden you want to publish part of it in a MLA journal, it will automatically change it for you. The library has resources on how to do this, or I can connect with you about it too. I am highly team Mendeley, but I know other people are team Zotero, so it just depends on your preference. I sort of have these as the summary to make sure that you invest your time into this. Your first draft should not be the version that actually comes to us as the adjudicators. So make sure that you take your time writing this, thinking it over, going over it with your supervisor. Ask your references well in advance of due dates. Another common thing that I'll hear people say is that they can't ask their reference until they have the proposal done, and so they won't ask the reference until the last minute. Send your reference a working version. The beauty of shared documents right now is even if they're not accessing it right away, they can see the progression of it. And they might even be able to provide feedback for you as to what you could work on within your proposal. And don't be afraid to ask for advice. I want to share a few of our resources. We have our external website with the research awards and scholarship opportunities. And at the bottom of that, there's actually a link out to the SharePoint site, which is only for graduate students. So on there, I will include this video. There's a similar video from last year with a slightly different twist, and other upcoming videos. I'll also have specific videos for each of the application processes. So for the Vanier, exactly how to, exactly the components, how it's broken down, and how to do the application. So now I will go over to the Slido for the questions that we have. So there was a few questions about what is the best place to address the concerns. And this depends on the type of concerns that you're addressing. Sometimes you might not even have an opportunity or a space where you could do that. So that might be something that your references have to do for you. Tim, did you have other feedback?
No, that was largely what I was going to say. Whenever people ask me questions, like my students, thesis students, or graduate students, I tend to give very annoying answers, like, you know, how long should the intro be? As long as it has to be, but no longer. You know, where should I put this? Wherever it's going to work best. So there is no single firm answer about the best place to address concerns. That will be an individual choice based on your particular application. But Allison's right. Often, especially if you're not allowed a cover letter, your references could be a good place for that. And to sort of mix and match questions a little bit, there was one about, well, actually the very next one, I guess, is are low undergrad marks going to be a problem if your master's and PhD grades are good? And no, not at all. You could even turn it into a positive by saying, you know, like, look, now that I'm in my element, how much I flourished, my grades have actually risen when I got to graduate school. And the other thing I tell people when they're talking to me is, for better or for worse, it's very much a what have you done for me lately world. If you have a graduate transcript, they're not going to worry about undergraduate transcript. I sometimes joking tell people, when's the last time anybody asked about your high school grades? For many of you, that's only 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, but nobody cares about your high school grades. Your high school grades get you into university. Your undergrad grades get you into graduate school. And once you've crossed that threshold, the importance of whatever got you past that threshold drops in significance greatly. So your most recent work will be your most important, but certainly feel free to highlight that in your application.
Great. Alex added in the comment section about where can you make it look like a strength. And that plays off of what Tim just said about, like, now that I'm in my element, now that I've found my, like, the research that I'm passionate about, you can play that up a little bit. We've sort of answered about if you've needed to have been awarded one of the big 5 to get a Vanier, and technically no, but I would say from sitting in on the adjudication meetings that it does help. And the reason for that is just the students who have applied for those other awards know how to write a really good application. At the doctoral level, I do try to provide feedback to all the students from our adjudication meetings about what to do better for them. And my goal is to try to get that out to some of the master's students, but we get so many applications, but hopefully we'll get there. The course that we talked about for reimbursement is the instructional skills workshop. So this is a workshop specifically designed for if you are doing TA-ships. So you'll basically, you learn how to be a really good and effective teacher. But even if you're not doing a TA-ship, it's a really effective course to take because, again, it helps you present in all contexts. And the leadership, definitely, it would be great to have another session on the leadership. Currently, the Student Life and Community Experience isn't running workshops on leadership, but they will be soon. And those are the great ones that Jennifer used as sort of the stepping stone. And so, yeah, my sort of takeaway from this is use the time while you're in university to not just attend your classes. So volunteer, connect with other people, because my previous professor who I worked with Tim, says that he could write anyone a reference. But there's a big difference between saying this person sat in my class and got a 98 versus this person volunteered in my lab and demonstrated these skills. So that's sort of the reference that you definitely want with this sort of thing. And I will share the link for those 2 websites right now. I will also stop the recording.
Well,